Before we bring everyone out, let's watch this video on how the Dodgers Foundation is making impact in the community.
Today, we're here on the Dodgers Dream Fields at Darby Park in the city of Inglewood. It's our Science of Baseball curriculum. Joining us, Matt Beatty, Chris Taylor, as well as Will Smith, and so we're really excited about that. We've got some former players who are here, Dennis Powell, Matt Luke, and Billy Ashley, so really excited about them being here. But everyone here, the principals, the teachers, everyone is here to celebrate, yes, the Science of Baseball curriculum, but also the continuation of our support of kids in the city of Inglewood. It's a wonderful community. There's so many amazing things happening in Inglewood, and we're just really happy to be a part of it, and we're happy to be able to impact kids in education, in sports, and in health.
Pump your arms. Good job. It's always fun to see these kids, excited for us being here. I mean, it's super important. Just being able to understand how the game works. It'll make you a better ball player. And also a better fan. We take a lot of pride in the math and science that goes into baseball. So you guys keep taking pride in your schoolwork and math and science and everything like that, and you guys can be here one day too.
Yeah, it's really cool. I would have loved this as a kid, relating, everyday topics we learn in school, subjects like math and science to sports. So we did a few different events. We rolled a six-sided die to, talk about batting average, and an activity with a slingshot to talk about launch angle. But just things like that to, kind of stem the kids' interest a bit.
I was involved with writing the Science of Baseball curriculum. And with the Dodgers Foundation support, we were able to train 3 schools in Inglewood School District, and those are the 3 schools that got to come today. And this is their prize, this is their award for the field trip to finish their school year strong and go into the summer with some knowledge about baseball and support the Dodgers in the next 4 months as they make the playoffs. And all the energy that their students are coming with to the field is fantastic. They get to see some Dodger players, some Dodger alumni. I mean, this is a real treat.
I just got an earful from the very powerful Marsha Bonner of Annenberg Foundation, who I love USC. Go SC, right? Let's introduce her to the stage as she introduces her panel. Marsha Bonner.
I had to tell him stop dissing our teams. He's a mess. We are so excited to be here with you this afternoon. I'm so glad they teed up that video because that really says a lot about what you're going to hear this afternoon from our amazing panelists. And we are so excited to be here as part of the LA84 Foundation, Play Equity, Elevating the Game for Our Kids. And we're here to discuss how we can impact the lives of young people and help close the pay. I always say pay, but it is pay and play. I always say pay, but a play equity gap to give more kids access to sports. And I just want to borrow from Renata Simrel and Dr. Bob Ross, who've really talked about the ABCs of sports-based youth development. And so, we talk about agency or the effort that kids put in. I say kids, I've got a 26-year-old, she's still a kid. So that the agency or the effort that kids put into sports. The B is the belonging, which is developing positive identity and teamwork. And C is the change that can happen to these kids, to their families, and certainly to the communities that we're all from and how we're all impacted by sports. And so we have this amazing panel, and again, Marcellus was not a good person, dissing the Ducks and the 49ers, but we are so happy to have Dr. Jill McNitt-Gray, Dr. Jill from USC. We've got Jason Cooper from the Anaheim Ducks. We've got Nichol Whiteman from the LA Dodgers, and Jesse Lovejoy from the San Francisco 49ers. And so we have a couple of questions that I've asked each one of them individually to answer, and then there'll be several that everyone will get a chance to answer. And so I'll start with Dr. Jill from USC, and we're all here because you have programs that combine sports, science, math, technology, which is STEM, and in some cases these programs are called STEAM because they involve the arts. So why is STEM important, Dr. Jill, and why have you chosen STEM at USC as a way to engage with young people?
So I think STEM is a way for young people to get to know themselves their body, their community, their world, and realize that there's things out there called STEM principles that can actually help them and their friends take on the challenges in their own community and really make a difference. And part of it is a process. And it's the same process that we use as professionals in the STEM field, where you really get an opportunity to get out there and to really understand a problem and then experiment a little bit and try some things out and play by really figuring out what is, what isn't, and you can figure those things out. It's often helpful to use math to have a model to figure out, you know, if I put something in, what comes out, those kind of things. You get an idea how things really work. And it's through these processes that kids can really begin to see what's going to work. How can I be part of that solution? And how can I use STEM to really take on those challenges in something in a way that's really relevant to them? And I think that's really key about STEM. And if you think about STEM and sport, really, sport is STEM in action if you think about it. So you get the same processes as we as scientists and engineers and mathematicians use, but you get to do this every day in practice. You get to solve problems with friends. You can have fun figuring this stuff out. And then in the end, you can actually solve some problems, and that really feels great. And you can begin to believe yourself through that evidence that you can really do this and make a big change. And so I think it translates really nice into real life, even though you might get those iterations and opportunities in sport. And that's really key. And that's why equity is so important, because you want everyone to have that opportunity to have those practices and have those tests and have time to reflect, learn, move on, and take on new challenges.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, Nichol, I'm so glad that we got to see that video that talks about your programs, but your programs all have a mission to make STEM and STEAM available to a broad spectrum of kids. What are the concrete ways in which your program meets these goals, the equity goals?
So just for a little context, for those in the room who aren't aware, the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation is the official charity of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it is really our goal to provide opportunities to youth who have limited access to healthcare, resources, to education, and to sports. We see ourselves as a champion who gets to use the celebrity, the power of this historic brand, the Dodgers, to be able to instill confidence and really build the confidence and improve the lives of those that we serve. At a time when we feel that sports, education, and health are increasingly becoming really reserved for the elite, we believe that equity is very important, and it's one of our most core values. So when we think about STEM, many in this room probably know about our Dodgers RBI and our Dodgers Dream Fields program. So yes, we build baseball fields in underserved communities, and we have a youth baseball and softball youth development program. But we also are a significant grant maker. And so STEM became one of our significant investments in 2018 when we decided to partner with Science of Sport. Ricardo just left the stage, really to co-create a Science of Baseball curriculum. At the end of the day, as Marsha just put it, and I think Jill said it, right? Sports is STEM in action. Right. So baseball, what an incredible textbook. And so from our perspective, how do you engage and continue to engage youth in schools, at recreation centers? You give them curriculum and you give them material that will excite them. And so we invested in creating this curriculum as a way to really first implement it within the Inglewood Unified School District for youth in grades 3 through 5. We most recently actually invested in another grant to expand it to 6th graders. Our goal is to ensure that we are using the facets of baseball and implementing it in schools, training teachers, giving them equipment kits, giving them extracurricular activities, allowing them to implement it on our Dodgers Dream Fields, having STEM field days as you saw in the video, creating travel pop-ups that many of you probably saw in the hall outside earlier today, all in an effort to give kids this engaging STEM experience. When you talked about equity in that question, Marsha, at the end of the day, when we think about all of our work at the Dodgers Foundation, we are truly about getting at those youth in Los Angeles who are in communities who need it most. And so we identify where we're putting our programs, we identify where we're doing our grant making by zip codes, and we really do look at those communities where youth are impoverished, where education levels are in a dire state, and we also look for great partners. We started in Inglewood because the Inglewood Unified School District wanted it, they needed it, and they've been a great partner. In terms of the science of baseball curriculum, I will say that we are really excited right now to be working with science and sports to also infuse it into the other work we do. So we are about to break ground on 3 baseball fields, baseball and softball fields, at Gonzalez Park in the city of Compton, and we intend to infuse STEM into that baseball complex. And so it really, for us, is going to be all about making sure that the batting cage and the bullpen have some elements of STEM, that the fields have some elements of STEM. So we feel like there's this intersection between the education and the sports piece, but you have to do it in the underserved communities. You have to do it in those challenged neighborhoods, because if we think that we have such a dire issue of not having diversity in STEM careers, how are we going to fix that if we're not going into communities, diverse communities, and educating youth from very young ages on what is STEM and how do you apply it to real life?
Absolutely, and that's a very nice segue, because we want to talk to Jesse Lovejoy, who's the Director of STEM Education for the San Francisco 49ers. Can we hear it for the 49ers? Woo! Come on, come on. So Jesse, as you introduce kids to the variety of job opportunities available to people with STEM expertise, how do you discuss potential jobs within sports?
Well, thank you, Marsha. First thing, I don't expect a lot of love for Niners in LA, but I'm glad to hear it. And I do want to correct myself. I mean, we won by 14 on Sunday, so I know what he's talking about, but we're 1-0. So that's what we're looking at going into Cincinnati. Marcellus back there listening to me. There are 4,000 people that work at Levi Stadium when we have a home game. Does anybody in this room know how many guys are on an active roster in the NFL? 53. So I'm not good at math. If I could have used some of my programs. Less than 1% of the men and women who are working at Levi Stadium play football. And what I always ask students when we do our Career Connections lesson is, what do you think the other 99-point-some-odd% do? And then I'll ask them, what's your mom do? What's your dad do? What did your grandpa do? We have doctors, we have statisticians, we have guys who make sure the grass grows, we have people who stand at the front gates and make sure that the ticket-taking technology works. And every single one of those jobs is a STEM profession. You know, we talk a lot about how to make sure that young people are interested in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And I think one of the first things we have to do as professionals that are looking at this work is start to demystify what a STEAM profession actually is. Kids are more aware of the term now. Next generation science standards, Common Core, iterative learning, like these things are happening in schools. They're getting told this a little bit more. There's still a lot more work to do there. But what they're generally thinking in their mind is, oh, that's a computer scientist, or that's an engineer, that's a doctor, that's a chemist. Car mechanic is a STEAM professional. Plumber's a STEAM professional. The guys who sit there up in the press box for our games and record every single down and distance, what coverage they're in, what the personnel is, and then relay that information back down to the sideline so that Kyle can look at his tablet and be like, what should we run next time? Those are STEAM professionals. So I think for us, we're very intentional about creating content that articulates and illuminates professions in football. And we also look at our partners. You know, we run 49ers EDU, we do a lot of different things around STEAM in the Bay. We run a field trip program, a teacher training program. We also run the 49ers STEM Leadership Institute, which is a program that cohorts 60 incoming 7th graders every year, keeps them together till they graduate high school.
Wow.
And we have 2 fab labs built at a middle school and a high school in Santa Clara. And so we have 60 kids at the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade level. We took our 10th graders up to Chevron, which is a sponsor of our program, a little small plug for Chevron there, they deserve it. And they met some chemists, and they met some marketing people, right? And they met some geologists.
Wow.
So it's about helping kids understand that, yes, there are professions that are directly connected to sports in the way that they consume and understand sports, which is to play them,
Right.
which is what we're all a part of here, right? But there's also a whole lot of other ways to understand how to be a part of a sports team without playing. So I think that's where we try and focus, is on that side of the lens. And I think as we look at continuing the work, it's a huge area of opportunity for all of us and any of you out there that are working in education too, is to start to reframe how kids think about STEAM, and that changes their view of their access points.
I love that, because you're talking to them about opening up their horizons, not just as it relates to sports, but also the intersection around STEM and STEAM. And you opened up the door for us to talk to Jason Cooper from the Anaheim Ducks. So Coop's here, and he's going to talk about something that he's very, very passionate about, because this program is now in its 20th year. It talks about how you involve partners in the community. So can you talk about First Flight?
Yeah, definitely. I do want to ask about the Ducks fans in the house again.
We got some Ducks, because we know we're in Kings.
Awesome.
We're in Kings country, but we like the Ducks.
First Flight is, the strength of First Flight is within our partnerships and specifically our community collaborations. One of the things that we've chosen to do is use this giant megaphone that we have, and that's to the leadership of our ownership group, Henry and Susan Samueli, who said, use this building, use this space, invite the community in, and use it as a platform to showcase what's important to them. And one of the things that we've settled on is STEAM and STEAM education. And so one of the things within that space that we do is we collaborate with pre-service educators at local universities to bring them to Honda Center as part of our event, where we bring 16,000 plus kids to the arena as well, to lead demonstrations and exhibitions that relate to some theme on the science of hockey. And what that does...
And there is a strategy and science of hockey?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
I don't know. Can you explain that a little bit? I think I've been to one hockey game, so... Science of hockey.
The science of hockey.
Yes.
So the science of hockey in our view is we go through 4 rotations of themes. This year we're going to attempt to explain the science of circuitry through a storytelling about the goal light and the history of the goal light.
Okay.
But in previous years, and last year we just finished up with a concept called Build a Better Puck. And the whole idea was explain the engineering process using the puck as a vehicle for moving that discussion forward, literally.
Sure.
And so we got into the classroom and with the assistance of these educators and pre-service educators, demonstrated what it was to think like an engineer, to consider your materials, your space, the environment, and ultimately not only train teachers on how to create design files in CAD, but to help educators that are going into the field, give them an opportunity to communicate STEAM principles in real time in an authentic setting, which is the real world, what we all exist in, is taking science out of the classroom and putting it in an authentic environment. And Honda Center just happens to be one of those.
How many people do you get at one of these programs?
So we have 16,000 students that will come
Wow.
this year on March 9th.
Wow.
But we rely on a volunteer corps of around 400 or so community and corporate volunteers help us execute.
And it's in its 20th year.
20th year this year.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So these next questions I'm going to ask all of you to individually answer, but what part of your program are you most proud of? So let's talk to you, Dr. Jill.
So one of the things,
yeah, go ahead.
We've done a lot of different things, from Family Science Night to using technology and translating some of our research actually into practice with Olympic athletes and Paralympic athletes for them to improve performance. But some of the things that we've learned in that arena, we've been able to actually bring into the classroom and work with local teachers. Some of them actually happen to be some of my students that are now out there. And it's really wonderful, especially in key transitions for middle school kids going into high school. And as you said, really math is the thing that opens up the STEM careers. And by having some firsthand interaction by doing science, I'm very lucky because I'm in the area of bio and mechanics, and I put them together. So I get to say, everyone's got a body, you all have one, right? And now we're gonna do a little mechanics because you all walked in here, somehow you interacted with the ground in an effective way, and you generated force on the ground that produced your movement.
Or you came in a wheelchair.
Or you rolled in.
Yep.
We work with Rancho Los Amigos National Rehab Center, and you have different ways of locomoting. And it all involves a force, however. So to get here, how do you do that? And you bring up a great point. There's more than one way to do that. And so you get to discover this for real by doing physics, because we're all doing physics, but you just don't recognize it. So making that connection between what they're learning maybe in a classroom and having it really relevant to them and how they move and what they want to do with their lives, that's really helpful because it's really, really then relevant in what they're learning. And as they connect, they want to know more.
Sure.
And it just builds from there. So,
Coop, how about you? What
We
are you
take
most
great
proud
pride, aside from our support for teachers and future teachers, which is probably paramount in our mission. But how many of you have heard of the Zamboni?
yeah.
Show of hands.
Yeah,
How many know the Zamboni was invented 10 miles down the road from here? Not too many,
Dr.
right?
Jill.
I've been there.
Fun fact, the original Zamboni is in Paramount right now, and they refused to ship it back to the Smithsonian. You can go look at it. It's behind one velvet rope. I'm sure you can step over if you go there. Paramount Iceland. Don't tell them I sent you. How many of you have heard of a woman by the name of Mary Claude Genereux? Nobody. She's an R&D engineer back in Bauer in Saint Jerome, Quebec. And if you're a hockey player, you should be thanking her every time you step in front of a puck because she helps develop the athletic equipment that they wear that keeps those guys safe and their bones unbroken. Those are the type of stories we're able to share with a larger audience through the work we do. And it's something that I'm in a really lucky and fortunate position to fly back to Montreal to meet with her and go down the street to talk with the Zambonis that are still around and tell these stories and pass those along to the next generation. And it's all that spirit of innovation that has incredible relevance to our sport, but is also an essential part of it too. And we get to share that too.
That's great. How about you, Nichol? What are you most
So
proud of?
if you know me, you know that I strongly believe that partnership is the secret sauce to our success of the Dodgers Foundation, and I am most proud of the partnership. And a partnership between Science of Sport, the Inglewood Unified School District, the teachers who are embracing teacher training and a different way of thinking in their classrooms, parents who have shared with us how much they feel their students are getting from this, our baseball operations department at the Dodgers, to know that we found a nice way to really intersect and work together, a very natural way. We have a very advanced, innovative baseball operations department, a lot of individuals doing a lot of things, but to Justin's point, very STEM related. So when you think about the analytics and the statistics, but the fact that they want to get on the ground with us and help kids in 3rd to 5th grade really understand that is really unique. The partnership of our players, and frankly, our team manager allowing our players to be part of this, right? So when you think about Dave Roberts, and even from the video you guys saw, Chris Taylor and Matt Beattie, and Will Smith was in there as well. They got out there and they were doing the exercises and they were really involved, and I think it's something that our players can get behind because you're talking about the size of a baseball field, you're talking about velocity, you're talking about the bat, like they were just natural, right? And so I think most excited about the partnership and how so many different groups and organizations and adults can get together to essentially end up impacting so many kids with this work.
Right, that's great. And how about you, Jeff? What are you guys most
Two
proud
quick
of?
things. Yeah, one quick, then one a little bit longer. One, to have done the work well enough to be sitting up here with people who are doing the similar work means a lot to us. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is to work for Dr. John York and Denise and their family, who have committed from the moment that Prop J passed and the funding was available to build Levi Stadium to be a really well-functioning, strong member of our community, to build a field trip program that serves 60,000 kids a year and provides $800,000 of transportation subsidy to schools in Title I areas so that they can come and be a part of the program, to use the curriculum that we wrote to build our teacher training program, which brings 500 teachers a year through our doors, to run the STEM Leadership Institute, to do the grants that we do, and to do all of it absolutely free. Is something that is really important, and to never have had them say no or raise an eyebrow or question the logic behind how we wanted to grow. We've always held ourselves accountable at 49ers EDU to be constantly looking forward to where we should be and what we should be doing and with whom we should be working. And so just the idea that we have that kind of support up high. A lot of us know how kind of rare that is, and we all come from situations where we're lucky to be in those environments, and also know probably plenty of colleagues where that's not the case. So very fortunate and very proud of that.
So we were talking backstage, and I was very, very surprised because I just assumed that every professional team had this. So can you, Coop, and certainly Jesse, talk about, and Nichol, talk about what is the issue and why don't we have more of these programs in some of these other professional teams? I was just astounded by that.
I think it is pretty incredible when you think about it, because it makes sense to us,
Yes,
right? And
yes.
if you're one of those people where it makes sense to you, you don't understand why anybody else is not doing it. But unfortunately, we tend to be the outliers in that, and it's changing. And I think that's due in part to the leadership you see up on the stage here. You need those voices in the room to advocate for this type of work and move it forward. A lot of it is tied up, especially within the professional sports business, to revenue. I think might be something that affects why we don't wade into that space. And you really are reliant on the leadership as set forth by your ownership group. You have 4 organizations here that have incredible owners or administrations, and those who provide directive and direction for us to go out and be good stewards, good citizens within the community.
And they see the connection to equity and trying to get this out in the community.
Absolutely. And it's a long-term investment by the clubs, but I will tell you how it pays off is you become a pillar of your community. Sports are transitive, and players leave and age out, but if you can connect to the community in a much deeper way, it's going to pay dividends years from now. And
would you say the same is true in baseball?
I echo everything that Jason said, and I think that Justin hit it on the head. We are in a unique position up here on the stage because we have ownership groups that are very supportive of the depth of a foundation and clearly understand how the charitable arm of the organization can essentially create a significant level of buy-in from a community, and not just for the market, not just for the bottom line of the team, but really for a community. We're creating a community. I think that a lot of folks just haven't made the connection. It really is just a matter of not understanding what you can do with the power of your brand in your city, and how you can engage your fans to be your partners in impacting people who just don't have enough. It's a really tough one, but I agree with Jason. I think a lot of people are getting on board, but I definitely feel like we have something unique going on here. I think there are a few others that are coming along because they're looking at the examples that you see up on the stage, and they want to know, how can I build? What are you building? What does it take? But it takes sports teams saying, I'm going to actually invest people. I'm really lucky to have a really great team, so we can do this, and a really great team who then can go find great partners, who then have the time to identify where we need to be doing our work. But you have to have people, you have to have capacity, you have to have money, you have to have ownership buy-in. There's a lot of ingredients that have to come together in order to make this happen. And usually all those ingredients are more so focused on player performance and the bottom line. But if you understand that if those two things go together really well, this can really impact how the fans see you and how the broader community sees you. We're creating the next generation of fans indirectly. I don't come to work every day to do that. I tell people all the time, I'm not the CEO of the Dodgers Foundation to put butts in seats to Dodger Stadium. That is not our job. I tell the staff that all the time, right? There are people who are on the for-profit side, and that is their job. But what we do indirectly makes it happen. We're creating the next generation of fans. We have kids out there who are running around with the Dodger logo, 11,000 kids in our Dodgers RBI program.
And their families.
Exactly. We have our logo up on fields. It's got the LA in the middle. Like, it's a direct correlation. And if you can get that, then it makes sense.
Would you say the same for the 49ers and football in general?
Definitely. I mean, I think, understanding that, reaching young people in an organic and authentic way is a long game towards success, is something that you can find, right? And sometimes I'm sure, we're lucky, again, like I said before, we don't have to have that conversation because we've got ownership that supports us regardless. But I think that is something that probably a lot of professional sports teams could benefit from, is truly understanding how that roadmap lays out, and then working it that way. I actually go back to something that Scott said earlier, and I was really moved by the trailer and the film and the discussion about recidivism and all that. And it's really narrative, right? And it's everybody understanding how important it is to get young people to pursue these subjects, because there is not a single domestic international problem that cannot be solved by a generation of young people that wants to learn and do things. And you need a lot of tools to figure that out, right? And so I think having sports teams take their proper place at the table is really important in that happening, just like it is for all the organizations in the room that are represented doing what they do. I know we're focused on action today, and I loved that Renata started us out that way. So I was thinking, she said, try and get 1% better. And I was thinking, okay, so maybe we could ask everyone to give 1% more. And my directive around that would be, most times pro sports teams do things because their partners come to them and suggest really great ideas. So hold your local, professional, amateur, collegiate teams accountable to being really positive parts of their community, and help them understand what that looks like through the eyes of your constituents in your organizations. And you might be surprised the kinds of responses you can get with a properly placed message or meeting or something like that. And
or a campaign.
so I would say that's something that I would love to see happen, and I do think that we're Malcolm Gladwelling at this point, right? We're definitely still going
At
up.
that tipping point, yeah.
And I'm waiting for the moment where MLB, NHL, NBA, and NFL all come together and say, all right, it's about time that education became that community pillar that we all look at.
From your lips to out there in the community. So we want to save some time for questions from the audience, but I just have one question for all of you, or for those specifically that are doing work with girls and those with disabilities. So if there are any of you that are doing that particular program, can we talk about that, and then we'll open it up for questions. Who's trying to involve girls?
We were talking about it a little bit backstage. And
Yeah.
I'll
You go.
You want to? No.
I think for Jason and I, and the Dodgers Foundation, we're meeting kids where they are, right?
Sure.
So we
Yep,
believe
sure.
that you go to the classrooms, you go to the community centers, et cetera. And so when we think about the schools, girls are automatically embedded in our programs. Youth with disabilities are automatically embedded.
Yes.
So we have programs where we're specifically focused on that, but as it relates to STEM, the luxury of it is that we are doing it in schools, and we're doing it in schools where girls exist and are benefiting from what we're providing.
Okay.
And I think in the other portion to add on to that is, echo everything, is to provide models where you can. Especially the one problem that we have is all our rosters, our playing rosters are male. And so how do you showcase the off-ice team or the folks that are helping make our product possible? And then where can you bring people in within the community to, again, pursue your
Bring
goals?
in the girls hockey team.
And support girls hockey teams
Yes,
where you
yes.
can. And we're making a big investment in that. In fact, this year, and I'm happy, there's a nice segue, we're going to host the U.S. and Canadian women's national team in Anaheim this year
Great,
to showcase
great.
that. And it's all about providing
Yeah.
a model.
Look at that. Anaheim Ducks. Excellent.
So it's work that is really hopefully not only going to showcase the peak of what athletic performance looks like, and an incredible rivalry, by the way, but what we've been doing in the community for years and years now, and that's the idea behind modeling.
Love it. Did you want to,
Yeah.
Dr. Jill, get in on this,
Just
and
real
then we'll
quickly,
open it up for questions?
Right, yeah. So we've done a lot of programs, and I think involving the community is really key. Someone had a slide up earlier that 97% of the women in the C-suite played sports.
Oh, yeah.
This is for real. And so one of the
Yeah.
ways we brought community in, especially in women in science engineering opportunities, we've got girls that like sports, are getting confidence by actually doing STEM themselves, and then they meet other women who've been through the pathway, and they see the value. So when you think about investment in sport, you're really investing in diverse people in STEM, and we need that because these are complex problems we solve, and we need multiple perspectives to get the job done, and that's really key to create that workforce.
Okay, we don't want Marcellus out here with the hook. So can we have 2 quick questions before he comes out with the gong and the hook? Anybody? Question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're asking me if that's a good idea? I think finding funding to support arts and education-based programs is a fantastic idea wherever you can get it. And I think finding an opportunity to get players to support it, and unions and owners and partners, is all part of the puzzle. I'll tell you that the the worst kept secret in sports for people who work with athletes all the time is that folks assume that athletes don't want to do this, or they're standoffish, or they are a certain way because they're perceived that way. Generally, 99.9% of the guys in a locker room would, at the drop of a hat, do something like that. So I think, suggesting that it happened at like a CBA level and that kind of stuff, I'm not going to dip my toe in that because that's a whole other conversation. But I think making sure that the world knows, and when I say the world, professional sports world, understands the importance of ensuring the programs happen is really important.
This light is really bothering me. It's blinking, so we have to close. Can we hear it for Dr. Jill, for Coop, for Nicole, and for Jesse? Thank you so much. Thank you so much.